This is RPGDad,
RPGNate.
and this is our weekly encounters wrap-up. Last night we did Session 7 of Search for the Diamond Staff.
Now, last night I DM'd instead of played because one of our DMs did not show up when he needed to.
Yep, and fortunately this week I did print out the session notes. I printed it out with the idea I was going to use them so I didn't have to keep flipping back and forth on the computer because this one was goofy. The session notes you've got the stats for the Uverani dragons that you fought. But the Zent soldiers, they were lazy, and instead of just reprinting the stats, it says, see page 17, Puppet Masters. So you had to keep flipping back and forth.
Well, they could have just copied and pasted.
They could have.
But they're lazy
Wizards,
bastards.
you're some lazy bastards. I mean, seriously, how hard would it be?
Oh my god, clicking these buttons.
All you had to do is flip the stats over, but instead, for people like me, where you're running a computer and you've got a PDF, you made it a pain in the ass. I hate you wizards. I really do. But anyway, this was Session 7. The title was Vault of Song. And at this point, you guys were going downstairs from where you were last week.
Downstairs.
Well, the groups were. We're going downstairs and actually entering the Vault of Song to finally see if they could find the staff, which they didn't find it yet.
No.
But you DM the encounter. Tell me what you thought.
It was tough for my party because they just couldn't hit anything.
See, it was tough for my party because we had 4 at our table. How many were you?
I had 5.
You had 5. I had 4.
But I got stuck with the rules lawyers.
You would have been my 5th. So if the other DM would have been there, we would have had 5 and 5. So my table, and I didn't, I should have pulled 1 dragon out to make it just the way it should have been. But we have characters who have just been dealing too much damage. And I'm like, you know what? The assassin has been dealing mega damage with his spring attack and his backstabs.
And the assassin didn't hit at all, did he?
He did not. Well, he would hit just like with a dagger or just with a rapier. He was not. Usually he gets his double hits and he's dealing mega damage.
But
and
anyways,
it wasn't happening.
What did you have at your table this week?
I had RPG Gem, her cleric. I had the assassin. We had a new player playing a wizard. Our other player, who was supposed to be there, his fan belt broke on the way there, so he couldn't make it.
Oh, God.
On the car, so he was getting a car repaired. And then our 4th player was the ranger, the character that actually played last week for the first time, and he came back. And it was funny because
for the first time.
Wait a minute. He actually, he built his own character, and he has a whole background, like 2 pages of his character's history. He wrote an actual history background for his character. So
did you see it?
I did, and you know what?
Did you read it?
I didn't have and then people started asking me questions. I was going to read it at the end. I'm going to read it next week. I'm going to say, let me read that because if he gets there early enough, I'm going to sit down in the time while I'm waiting. And but I just think that's awesome that he got so into it that he wrote a character background, explaining why he has the weapon. Because he had a ranger, he had a katana. And he wrote this whole thing about it was like a background. It was a family heirloom handed down and all this kind of stuff. So it was really cool that he put that much thought into an encounters character.
Yeah.
And this is a guy whose father's played D&D forever. And, he's handed it down to his son and his son plays.
Yeah.
And I like that. And that's why he's really into it. You've got to like that in a player when they're that into it that they're going to take the time to write a couple pages, 2 column, couple pages of background, detailed stuff, and that's what D&D is about: is the role playing, not just the combat encounters.
Yeah.
But the Vault of Song, you had the Uverani dragons and the Zent soldiers, which we've seen, and it's still laziness on their part for not including the stats so people didn't have to flip around or waste an extra page of paper to print it out.
Yeah.
But what did you think of the encounter overall? I know it was hard for them because your guys were rolling shit, but what did you think of the encounter?
I critted on the one paladin like 5 times.
Was he dead?
No. He got healed up around the 3rd time. And then I critted twice more, and he got healed up more again.
Now, was the paladin one of your new players, or?
He was a seasoned player.
So, I know which paladin it was.
The other rules lawyer.
Yeah.
He's not quite as bad a rules lawyer. He didn't argue every single little itty bitty rule.
He's the one that he's an annoying character because here's one he's playing lawful good, but like when we went through that weekend encounter thing, he's the most secretive. His character was secretive. He was lying. He was being deceitful. The exact opposite thing of what a lawful good character is. He should really, by this point, have been stripped of his paladinhood and said, "You're just a fighter. Generate a fighter."
Or,
I mean, if you're going to have alignments and you're going to pretend you're a paladin and you're getting your power from a god that relies on you being lawful good, which is the epitome of...
He's under the god, the protector.
I know, but it's still...
And he doesn't protect at all.
Exactly. So he should be stripped of his paladinhood. That's why I want to do the whole alignment series on Fridays, because there's so many people who just play like assholes, and they say they're in alignment, but they never play the alignment.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's an annoying character. I really don't like that character.
No. But anyways, they did get through it eventually. We had somewhat of an argument when our one rules lawyer decided he was going to argue over what type of action it was to switch out a weapon. And
well, I'm going to preface it. The one guy who was arguing and looking on his phone, which is the paladin...
No, not the paladin.
Well, I saw him looking at his phone too, because you asked me, and I said
his phone was actually his character.
I said it plays as a standard action,
and his character was actually on his phone.
It plays as a standard action. That's how I played at my table. That's how I see it. If you're going to stow a sword, pull out a bow, and start pulling an arrow out, I mean that's a lot of actions at one time. The rules themselves say, you can incorporate like stowing a weapon or stowing a shield into an action. But there's an or in there as well. And that or tells me that you're not going to be able to do all this at one time. So my rule is, yes, you can stow a weapon, pull out another weapon, and do your movement, and you're done. You're not going to be able to attack.
No. You
have prepared for your next attack. And some people may disagree with that. Tactically and realistically, they're wrong. Most of these people are just tabletop gamers, never fought with a weapon, they've never been in combat, and they don't understand the logistics of it, and I don't want to hear their opinions because they're wrong. You're talking a 6-second round. Your part of that 6-second round is not the entire 6 seconds. If it was, you would be able to swing your bastard sword after you move 2 or 3 times. There's a reason that you can only get one swing out of it. It doesn't take 6 seconds to run 20 feet and then swing a weapon. It takes 1 or 2 seconds to do that. You got 4 seconds to stand around and drink your coffee after that.
Yeah.
The reality is that 6-second round is split up and shared by everybody. The only reason that you have your order is there has to be an order to the game. That's, and it comes down to this person reacts quicker than the other, and bam, everybody is doing stuff simultaneously. But you're only getting a portion of that 6 seconds. You're getting a piece of it. If you got the full 6 seconds, you'd be able to do a ton more crap than run 20, 30 feet and take one swing with a weapon.
I think the way GURPS rounds are with its 1 second rounds are a lot more...
That orderly. Is realistic.
They're a lot more orderly because then you're not standing around for 4 seconds like, all right, I'm just going to stand here. You make your attack. You make your attack. I'm just going to watch you guys, and I don't care.
Yeah, it's stupid. But when somebody's going to argue that point, here's the thing. That or gives me the ability to interpret that rule. And my interpretation of the rule is it becomes a standard action when you do both.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, don't sit at my table. That's my interpretation of it.
Well, he wasn't sitting at your table. He was sitting in mine, and I had to deal with it.
But the other guy who was sitting there, but the other guy, not the one that was arguing mainly, he when you said, what is it? I said, it's a standard action. He goes, no, you can incorporate it all into one thing. I said, no, if you're doing both, it's a standard action. That same player, where did he sit last week?
Your table.
And did he argue with me about it?
No.
And that's how I played it last week, isn't it?
Yes.
He didn't argue once because he knows, number one, at my table, my rules go, and I'm not putting up with crap.
Yeah.
Number two, he figured, you're a 16-year-old. He's an adult. He can push you around. This is the other guy. He knows.
Which guy?
The other guy, the paladin. He's the one that he said something to me. And I said, no, it's a standard action.
The one that was causing the biggest problem at my table was
the other guy with the glasses. I know, but I don't care about that. The one that sat there and said, no, it's not. You can incorporate it and do both. He's the one that sat at my table last week, and there was not one argument. I think he thinks there's a difference, that he's not going to push around a 50-year-old man, but he thinks he can push around a 16-year-old kid because he thinks you're a kid. And he's going to bully you by being, 5 years older than you? I think he just got to college, maybe 6 years older. Big shit. He's still just a kid, too.
Yeah.
And, that's something that pisses me off. You've been DMing for 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
You started young. You were playing for a while. And
I played for about a year, but then I started DMing.
And so...
I like getting familiar with the rules first before I really start.
And I readily admit, with most of the rules in Next, because I don't like Next... You know a lot of those rules better than I do.
Yes.
When it comes to building characters, I let you help people build the characters. I worry about the combat rules, the logistics, things like that. If it comes down to, what does this spell do? I do a real quick look up on the computer because it takes a second to go in and do a search on the PDFs.
Well, as long as we have the book, it's relatively easy to find the spells.
We always have the book and we have the computer. It's easy to find it. But, I figure when it comes to combat, and I know my combat rules.
Yes.
I don't care about the other stuff, mostly because I'm going to admit right here and now, I'm not buying the Next books. I'm not happy with what they're doing with the rules. I'm not happy with Next. We'll talk about that later, but I'm not buying them. But I think your issue was you had two jackasses that are maybe 22, 23 years old who thought they could push around the 16-year-old kid.
I have.
And you took care of it because once they started pulling the stuff out, what did you do?
I don't care.
And what did the new guy say at the table?
He's just like, the DM has spoken, after the guy had started trying to argue again. And it was funny.
Yeah. Was that the dad that did that?
It was a guy sitting directly to my right.
Well, there was a dad and his two sons. They were the
guy sitting closest to me, to my right.
Well, was he the older guy or one of the younger guys?
I don't know.
You couldn't tell the age?
Who was?
I mean, it was pretty obvious. Anyway,
so, I know the one that was like kind of in front of me. He looked older.
Okay, so
it
was one of the sons.
Yes,
and they were experienced 4E players. So
yeah,
but nobody wants to hear that crap at the table. Nobody wants to hear the rules lawyer being a dick and arguing at the table.
No,
nobody does. That's not why you come to encounters. And let's face it, you've got 2 hours or less to play your game. You don't have time for the rules lawyer to be an asshole and take up everybody's time.
No.
And that's, once the DM says, look, this is the rule, whether you like it or not, you need to shut the fuck up and play the game.
I gotta say, though, without any wizards at my table, I was able to really get through the rounds fairly fast. Because you didn't have the wizards reading through the spells, trying to figure out the conditions that happened. So that was a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, that's something... Well, with 5th edition, you don't have... If they use the character sheets they give you, and you're going to have a ton of spells, you're not able to write all those spells down. It's kind of tough. I like the character builder they use for 4E because the spells are right there. You don't have to do... It's there.
Yeah.
Nobody has to say, let me see the book or this. Yeah, you could write all that crap down, or you could be like our one player that didn't make it this week because of his fan belt, who has a spreadsheet built out, and he puts his spell descriptions in there.
Oh, our other wizard.
Yeah, I mean, he has his descriptions and he knows what his stuff does. But if you're just going to write a spell name down, which is pretty common when people build the things out, nobody's going to remember what all those spells do. You're lucky if they write the damage down, and as well as the area of effect and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The wizards can be a pain in the ass just because of that.
But when was the last time on Wednesdays you had to deal with a rules lawyer?
I've never had to deal with a rules lawyer except, the one guy who wasn't a rules lawyer, he was just an ass who was arguing like he could cut through a hard corner.
I've had entirely too many rules lawyers.
And after I got done with him, he just didn't come back.
I think I'm just more unlucky and I've DM'd a lot more.
No, you haven't DM'd more. I think the issue is they think they can argue with you, and they know they can't argue with me.
Remember that couple that was a rules lawyer on our, I think it was a Saturday group at that time.
That was a Saturday, Sunday group, our weekend group.
And it wasn't our current wizard and druid. It was way back then. We were
It was
playing
another
Tomb of Horrors.
another couple, and the guy would just argue. I mean, he's the one that would argue about my thief and my charge, and I had the roundabout charge, and he'd argue with me every damn time because roundabout charge, I just have to start 3 away,
Yeah.
and then I don't have to move any closer. During, normal charge, you have to go straight line or basically move closer each move on your charge. With roundabout, you can run a circle around. And this guy would argue, and I'm like...
But it wasn't just you he was arguing with.
But I mean...
It was also me.
He shouldn't be arguing with any player at the table. If the DM understands that, yes, roundabout charge, you can do it, why is some asshole at the table going to sit there and argue a rule that he does? Obviously, he's a shitty rules lawyer because he didn't know the rule.
No.
But that's the typical rules lawyer. They're going to argue, and they try to do it. Why would you try to strip a fellow player who's trying to help you out in an encounter, so that everybody doesn't die? Why would you try to strip them of an ability they have?
Especially if the DM isn't arguing with him.
Yet, you're going to do what you can to try to get as much advantage with your character. I mean, do you really think once everybody's dead because you fucked everybody over that you're going to win the encounter by yourself? I mean, it's a total egotistical douchebag asshole. I hate rules lawyers.
But I think one night, I finally just exploded on him. You remember that, right? He was arguing with me, and it had been going on for like 15 minutes.
Well, when I'd run the Lair Assault, he would do the same thing. And that's
no, but
the Lair Assault, remember the one where they had that giant waterfall? He was the character I made sure I threw over that freaking waterfall.
Yeah. But it had been going on for like 15 minutes. And I just exploded. I'm like, shut the fuck up. It's my world. I don't give a shit about what you say. Just shut up.
And yeah, it sounds disrespectful, but the guy was being disrespectful to everyone at the table and the DM. And you know what? I've always taught my kids, and you may disagree, respect is earned, it's not given. And when you've got somebody being an asshole like that at the table, and they're just being disrespectful, a total douchebag, they've earned no respect. They're not going to get any respect.
Yeah.
You've got to give it to get it. And if you're going to sit there and be a socially retarded asshole, then you deserve no respect given to you. You've got to give everyone at your table respect to expect to get it back. Age is not a determinant in getting respect. If you're an 80-year-old man who's an asshole and gives no one respect, you deserve no respect.
And I didn't ask him to come back after that.
No.
We already had like 7 or 8 players with them playing. So
well, we had people that wanted to play.
Yeah. So we didn't need them anymore.
No. And the reality is, when you've got somebody causing trouble at the table, that helps drive people from your table.
Yeah.
And, honestly, I think that's some of the reason we had some people not come back, because you didn't blow up until, like, this last encounter. We didn't lose anybody after that, but we were losing people up until then while this guy was playing.
Yeah.
Because he was such a nuisance at the table.
Yeah.
And as a DM, if you have somebody like that, you need to tell them, get the fuck off my table. You're not allowed to come back anymore. You don't have to let people play.
It was nice for the rest of the night not having that asshole argue, though.
But you don't have to let people play. You don't have to be nice. If they're ruining your game, you have an obligation to the players at the table who are being miserable while this guy's there to say, look, you're not invited back anymore. Yeah. If you can't act in a civilized manner and treat people with respect, stay the hell away.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. I don't care if you're playing at your home or you're playing at a store. If you're the DM, the people are there at your invitation. That's it.
Yeah.
If it's a store-run event, then yes, it's at the store's invitation and you have to be nice to them. But if they become an irritation, then you still have the right to say, you're not sitting at my table anymore. You're not welcome there. I will kill your character in the first round by a giant giant eagle shitting on your head with a 2-ton pile of crap. Yeah. You're going to be dead.
If I ever hate any character that much, that is exactly how I'm going to kill them.
Yes, I just gave you an idea.
Yes. It's like, how much damage does it do? Because I have resistance.
Well, it fell from 5,000 feet and figure acceleration, plus this and that, you're dead.
It equals...
You're dead.
About your hit points times 1,000,000.
You're dead. That's just it. You're dead. and I have no problem with killing a nuisance player.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the only way to get a message across, and usually it still doesn't get the message across.
Usually it just makes them rage quit from your table.
That's fine, but because, these people that are like that have no social graces in the first place.
Yeah.
And, I admit, I cuss. I don't do it at the table.
No.
I cuss here. I cuss in normal places. I can be a nasty SOB, but usually if I'm nasty, it's because someone's asked for it.
Yeah.
And a rules lawyer, in my opinion, they ask for it. But anyway, back to the encounter. What was your table makeup?
2 pallies, a ranger, 2 fighters.
Okay.
And kind of healers.
See, and that's a problem that I have. Your table should have had a lot more problem. I think that's another thing that's broken in Next.
I couldn't hit either, which was part of the problem. I didn't hit. I think I hit the guy to my right once.
But I'll be honest, I think it's bullshit. They've taken away the need for a healer. When a ranger has a heal, it's the same as a healer's heal. When the paladin can heal. When you've got these classes that all have heals, there's no need, unless you really are going to run into a campaign with turn undead and crap like that. The cleric, it's the WoW phenomena.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem with D&D. You've got too many people.
At least in WoW, your classes are unique to themselves.
They're not unique. Everybody can heal themselves. They might have a move or something is unique. They might look a little different. But let's face it, the PvP crap.
Mages cannot heal.
But the PvP crap has ruined WoW because to these idiots that play the game, and I used to play, and I still thought the people playing were idiots when they sit there and scream balance because they didn't understand balance. Balance to them really came down to playing PvP, and I think I need to do as much or more damage than everybody else I'm playing against. And what was nerfing, really, to most of these idiots that would scream balance? Them wanting to do more damage than everybody else. It was really one person who's attached to a class trying to fuck everybody else over.
Yeah.
The WoW community is probably some of the most immature group of selfish assholes I've ever seen because all they want is everybody nerfed but themselves.
It's like trying to fuck over your own guild members that do raids with you.
Exactly, because you're whining, you want all these other classes nerfed, and you rely on these classes when you go into a raid
These
and
are
stuff.
Supposedly your friends
exactly.
that are in your guild, and you're going to fuck them over like that?
That's why I say they're the most socially inept and immature people I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It's, raids, PvP, even PvP, because it's groups going in together. It's about working together, and none of these people work together.
No.
They're just socially inept. But the problem is they come to things like D&D after playing these stupid games, and they expect the same kind of crap. They expect that every class should just be doing bam, pow damage, and balance means that I do as much damage as everybody else. Where these are morons who don't understand D&D is a different animal altogether. Classes have roles. Classes have roles. You have controllers, healers, your tanks. Everybody has a role.
I believe the closest games to that are EverQuest and League of Legends. EverQuest was made by Sony, and Sony's normally very good at these things, making games. So that each class had its own specific use, and yeah.
But this is the other problem I see with Next. What was the promise of Next when they announced it?
Being a universal game system.
Exactly, so that if you wanted to play First Edition, if you wanted to play Fourth, whatever, it was going to be a universal system where you could incorporate whatever rules of D&D into it. And instead, what they're doing, they're taking stuff from First, Second, Third, and throwing it all together and making this ugly mishmash of a game that's it's just horrible.
And also, by universal, I don't mean you can play any genre of game. I mean you can play any rule set of the game.
Of D&D.
Yes.
It's not like GURPS where you can play any type of game whatsoever. You can play fantasy, you can play space, you can do anything. That's a true universal system. But within the D&D system, or the D&D game, it was supposed to be universal where you could play First Edition rules. And that promise went away. And now what you have, seriously, quick actions, quick spells. What are they?
Minors.
So they've taken the stupid crap from third and the stuff from fourth, and they've thrown it in. And then they try to make the combat with the move and an action. Pretend that you just have a move and an action, but they still throw in the sneaky minors for stuff like wizards and stuff. And, they try to make it like first edition, and they're trying to do this and trying to do that. And what you have is just a totally fucked up and ugly system.
Yes.
And it's just not worth our money to be putting into it.
We've already bought 4th edition, damn near every book you could ever need.
And I'm not putting that kind of money in the 5th.
We put at least $200 into GURPS for each book.
But GURPS we're done with, unless there's something that we really want else. Because GURPS, what generates the world?
You.
It's all up to you, and I think that's some of the problem with. I don't think it's a problem with D&D. It's a problem with the way that Wizards presented D&D once they took it over. You have to have these modules, and it's all role playing with minis and crap like that. I think that's really. This is my personal opinion, because 4th is not a bad system. It's really not a bad system. The problem is the way it's been presented, where the encounters are what the game's about, where you're going from one miniature combat encounter to the next. And they act like the role-playing doesn't exist.
When I read through the rules, it mentioned pretty much nothing. It said you take the role of a character, that was about it. And it was like there are 2 types of encounters, skill challenges and fighting. And that's the most that went into anything about that. But
let's face it, a seasoned DM, or a DM that appreciates role playing, which I think that I've kind of molded you into that type of DM.
I've always been like that.
But you got to admit, I've helped you along the way, because what have I always pushed? The role play portion of the game, because that's my roots. We really enjoyed the hell out of it. Yes, I enjoy the combat, but if all you're doing, it's grueling. If all you're doing is combat to combat to combat, it's boring as hell.
In Death's Reach, when we got to a point where, when we got to that room, I was just like, oh my god, I'm gonna die if we just continue fighting through everything. And I'm like, alright, so, I'm gonna do something a bit different now. You guys can either fight these guys, or try to pass yourselves as people that are there for Orcus.
At Orcus's bidding.
Yes. You guys are like, what? And
I picked up and ran with that.
Well, the rest of the table was like, what?
I knew once you threw out the ability to role play, I was all over it. And let's face it, the table's having a hell of a lot of fun with it. I mean, the wizard, when you painted that mini, he's like, oh, I guess I can't be the Ghoul King anymore. He's really getting into playing the Ghoul King and doing the role playing. Yeah. And I mean, that's the fun of the game. It's not just the combat. The fun of the game is mixing the combat with the role play and just having a hell of a lot of fun. And it's a social game. Maybe that's part of the fault. Maybe part of the problem is just some of the people that just we've gotten to just become such a society where we're online, we're texting and everything else, and actually talking and interacting with people is unheard of. But that's the fun of the game, is interacting with your table and having a great time, joking around, role playing, and just having fun.
I think the wizard's caught on. His wife, the druid, she hasn't quite caught on yet.
She's having fun though.
She's starting to catch on, but she's not quite as into it as the wizard.
But she's working on it.
Yeah.
And it's because honestly, I think a lot of these people have been playing 4.0 forward, and they're so used to this game system that's been presented like combat with minis. You buy a module, and there's nothing in there about role playing. No. It's all you do this, you talk to this, and then it's they read what the guy says, and then there's no real talking to people. It's you do a skill challenge, which is rolling dice.
The module, there have been 2 things. One had nothing to do with combat. I was just talking to those guys that the silver or whatever.
But that's extremely rare.
And also the gatekeeper or a taxman. The highwayman.
Well, the highwayman, any other party would have fought.
I think I've had a couple encounter parties as well that I've played with that might have done that because they're They're a bit warped.
Yeah. Any other party probably would have fought, because most parties don't run around being evil, because you have too many DMs who are dicks and say no evil characters, no evil groups. Well, I think they do that because the DMs themselves have a misunderstanding of evil alignment. They just, and then you have too many players who play evil characters poorly.
Yeah.
And you can play an evil character without being an asshole.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is most people play evil characters and they play assholes. Not evil characters. They just play assholes.
Evil characters aren't assholes.
No.
Granted, when they are doing their evil actions, they are assholes, but they're not assholes all the time.
But a true evil character, with the exception of demons, okay? I'll put that caveat in there. With the exception of demons, a true evil character does not do evil for the sole purpose of doing evil. They use evil to meet their purposes, which they may believe they're doing good. I'll put the quote marks that nobody can see up. They think that they're doing good. They're using evil to meet those means.
Put quote marks in the description.
There you go, quote marks. But that's the problem. But we're breaking away again, and it's mostly because are you starting to have issues with 5th edition too?
I don't even care about 5th edition. I do plan on playing it for encounters.
Well, we'll do it because we should. I will play. I will probably DM the next session, but it's because no rules books are out. Once the rules books come out, I'm not buying them, and I will not DM unless they give us the option. Oh, you can play this. If they keep doing what they're doing with the modules, you can play it as either 4th or 5th or whatever you want. If they start doing that, then I'll DM a 4th edition table. But if I'm a player, I will play to support the store. I won't buy D&D stuff when I go there. Like this weekend, if we go, I'm going to buy the Fate system.
That sounds really interesting.
It was that Kickstarter that came out, and it looks very interesting. Simplified rules. It's a small book, and it's the entire system.
What is it?
I have not done that much reading. I love to buy systems where I just read a little blurb about it. I'm like, sounds cool, I'll buy it, and then I'll read the system.
I want to pick up that Death Watch system. That sounds interesting.
That'll be after I buy the Fate system.
Yeah, I definitely would buy that. It's not new.
Isn't that like a Warhammer or 40K thing?
Yeah, Warhammer 40K.
Okay. Well, don't you need the base rules too?
It looks like that's the base rules because the book's like that.
Do a little research before we spend our cash.
But it looks really...
The Fate system I'm going to buy because that is the rule system.
Yeah.
And it looks interesting. And I like supporting independent game designers like that.
And then we also have the books if we do decide to play that system.
But that's just it. I love supporting... That was a Kickstarter. I found out about it late, or I would have supported it. Now, I'll support it by going to the store and putting my money into it.
You'll both support the game system and the store.
Exactly. And that's just it. I mean, if you have a store... And this is really going off topic, but not really since we're talking encounters. Encounters are always sponsored by your friendly local gaming store, whether it's a comic store, comics and game store, whatever. They're letting you come in and use their space, use their tables, and you're supporting them so they stay open so you have those tables every time you buy stuff from them. Now, our store, if you go and you buy D&D merchandise or dice or stuff, on gaming night, you get a 20% discount. So they give back to you, but trust me, they're making money, and I have no problem with supporting them because that gives us our table. Yeah. When we're playing Sundays, when we're playing Wednesdays, we always know we have a place to go play. Yeah. So, and it's centralized for all our players. It would kind of be bad if we were like, hey, come to our house, because we have so many people who live so far away where this is central to everybody.
Yeah.
We all drive 10, 15 minutes instead of people driving 30 minutes to come to us.
Yeah.
So, if you're playing...
Granted, we can't play overnight like we could at a house, but...
I'm too old for that shit, so there wouldn't be any overnight play anyway. My overnight days are over. The closest we'll do is when we're doing our cons and playing all day and into like 1, 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
But support your stores. They're being nice enough to open the doors for you and provide that table. Go ahead and support them.
And
and I'm not getting anything out of it other than I have a table I can play at when I want to.
And enjoyment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so anyway, let's go back to the actual encounter session. My group because I didn't pull the one dragon out because I anticipated the damage that's been dealt normally, which was a bad decision on my part. They still made it through. My assassin was down to like 15 hit points. The mage got down to about 10, and so did the ranger. Your sister, the cleric, was at 42, so she barely got dinged. She is the tank of the group. I mean, it made me laugh when she was able to make the strength check. Well, she's the tank
of the group when I'm not there.
She was able to make the strength check when nobody else could. I mean, she critted twice with those freaking pink dice, and she dealt tons of damage.
I hate those pink dice.
Well, if you're a player at the table, you got to love the pink dice when they're helping you out.
Yeah.
And she did her heals. So she did a great job. I mean, I was very happy I'm getting more happy with her play every week. Instead of being the selfish, dole out a little bit of healing cleric, she's going in, who never does anything or stays back and uses a sling. She's going in, engaging, and healing.
And she is getting better at role-playing.
She's been awesome lately with the role-playing, except when she did stuff that initiated combat.
I think last week she did stuff like that.
Last week she actually got us through something, and then we're like, screw it, we're fighting. She was so mad.
By last week, I mean the week before last week.
Yeah, it's hilarious when she actually does a great job of role playing and gets us through something. We're like, you know what? We want to kill these guys because we want those eye stalks or we want this or that.
Yeah, you've done that twice now.
Yeah, she's like, damn it! It's hilarious.
It was funniest when she bribed the druid into choosing to not fight.
Yeah,
that was good.
Gave her a lot of gold so she would go along with her when
she gave her like fight. $500,000 gold.
Yeah.
Just so she wouldn't fight. But I think on our Sunday campaigns, we're going to finish in about 2 weeks. Way off topic now.
Well, you got to remember that we've got that, I think 17th, 18th, 16th, 17th. I don't know what the exact dates are, but that weekend is not going to be a play day for us.
That's 3 weeks, or
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah. 2 weeks from now. So we'll have this weekend, then we have to skip because we have the game weekend.
Next, what are the dates?
It's the week before the next encounter, so it's going to be next weekend.
All right. So we'll have a break there.
So we've got 3 weeks. I still think it'll take 3 to 4 weeks to finish your campaign. Because we were slow through the 2 combats we did this weekend. They're getting tougher as it goes up. So, and I'm not in a rush. You know, we just need to finish it up and make it right.
I'm near the last one I know it's about to finish, I'll tell people to bring their GURPS books, and if we finish early enough, we'll roll up some characters.
So, well, I think everybody's getting a character generator, so I think they're going to have their characters already. But, anyway.
Well, as long as I review it and make sure that nothing in there is off limits.
So anyway, this week, you guys made it out without dying. My group made it out. They were close.
I nearly killed my one paladin.
But I think it was a matter they just had to burn their hit dice to get back up.
Yeah.
And next week is the last encounter of Search for the Diamond Staff, and it looks like that one's going to be tough. I'm looking at the 4th edition copy, and if they do what they've been doing, and they bump up some of these attacks, it's going to be even tougher.
What level is she? She's probably going to have Volfire again, just for the hell of it.
Well, she's a long sword or staff. She's got a weapon arc and some other stuff. It looks like she's a fighter. There's a cult leader who probably has. He's going to be he's your spellcaster. And then you've got the Zen soldiers again and a bunch of other, like a dozen other guys.
It looks like these two might be fighting now.
But, as long as they don't go crazy with the power-ups on them, it should be a tough fight. But I'm hoping I don't have to nerf it again like I have had to, so it's not a TPK.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's it for this one. We had put something up to go ahead and send in Q&A. We haven't seen any yet. All you need to do, go to that contact page, and there's 2 things there. There's an email address at the top for you to send in your mini submissions for the Tuesday mini challenge. And we do want to start seeing people send stuff in. There's going to be some cool stuff that will be given out each quarter to the overall winner of all the weekly challenge people. And Then below that, there's a form, and use that form to send in if you have questions or anything you want to say, want answered. And we'll include that in the podcast.
Now, granted, if you win multiple entries through the quarter,
well, if you win multiple entries, I'm still going to put them in. You know, if you're the weekly winner twice or something, yeah, both of them will get to go in.
Oh.
But I'm not gonna dick somebody over and say, well, you can't put them both in. People have to vote. It'll be the one mini that they think is it, and that's the one person who's going to get a quarterly prize. There's not going to be first, second, third, because I'm paying for this out of pocket. Unless people want to donate money to the site to help pay for hosting and all the stuff that we're starting to add on. As long as I'm paying out of pocket, it's going to be a single first place winner, and it's going to be nothing huge, but it's going to be a very useful, cool prize.
All right. So thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast video thingy,
if as long as it's on YouTube, remember to subscribe,
favorite, like.
Yep. And if you have comments, you can put them either on the YouTube feed or on the blog. And eventually, we're going to flip over and be doing full podcast hosting and have a true RSS feed. So we may be moving away from putting the YouTube videos up as much. I'm thinking even the Wednesdays, the Don't BAs might end up being podcasts without the video, just so that you can listen to them instead of having to wait for the downloads.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we're going to start our alignment series, and we're going to just work our way through general alignments and then specifics and how we feel that they should be played and how they're played wrong by a lot of people. But that's it for today's. So, again, we'll see you next time, probably tomorrow.
Yep.
And this is RPG Dad signing off.
Bye.